Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today I'll analyze the case of Joel Pellot. First I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the crime, then offer my analysis. Joel Pellot was born on May 31, 1978, and lived in Puerto Rico. He went to school to study nursing and met another nurse named Maria Eugenia Munoz. The couple became romantically involved. Maria was almost 11 years younger than Joel, having been born on January 25, 1989. The couple married in 2011 and moved to Laredo, Texas. Eventually, they lived in a 2,600 square foot house on Canyon Oak Drive. The couple had two sons, Alejandro and Valentino. Joel worked as a nurse anesthetist at a local hospital, and Maria was a stay-at-home mother. In 2018, Joel started having an affair with a coworker named Janet Arredondo. She was not subtle about this affair, even taking Janet on a European vacation. Not surprisingly, Maria discovered the infidelity. She was not happy about it. To make it up to his wife, Joel took Maria on a trip to Las Vegas, and the marriage seemed to be on the mend. Not long after this, Joel returned to his old ways and started seeing Janet again. In the spring of 2020, he moved in with Janet. Maria really struggled with the infidelity. She did not know what to do in this situation. Now moving to the timeline of the crime. On Saturday, September 19, 2020, Maria saw her husband's vehicle outside Janet's residence. She went to the door, rang the doorbell, and gave Joel an ultimatum. He was going to have to make a choice. Janet called the police on Maria. An officer called Maria when she was on her way home with Joel in the vehicle. In the background, Joel could be heard saying, quote, "Hey, I'm blanking talking to you right now. Hang up the blanking phone," unquote. Before they arrived home, Joel allegedly broke the windshield of the vehicle. The next morning, Sunday, Maria texted Joel and said she was hiring a lawyer. He replied, quote, "We can do this with minimal lawyer intervention. It's too much money," unquote. At about 1 a.m., now on Monday, September 21, Joel appeared to have a change of heart. He sent an email to Maria indicating that he was sad and hurting inside. He wrote, quote, "I want to sit down with you to talk without arguing, a heart-to-heart," unquote. They made plans to meet that night, Monday. Joel visited the family house, as planned. At 1:32 a.m., now on Tuesday, September 22, 2020, Joel Pellot called 911 and said his wife was unresponsive and possibly dead. He told the operator that he had given his wife a full bottle of pills. Minutes later, he discovered only 2 pills remaining in the bottle. First responders arrived and tried to revive Maria, but they were unsuccessful. She was declared dead at 3:58 a.m. Maria was 31 years old. Here is what the police found during the course of their investigation. Officers discovered a bag full of syringes and IV equipment in the house. On the stairs, there was a needle catheter. In the crease of Maria's elbow, there was a small wound which looked like it had been made by a needle. Joel was interviewed at the police station. When he was in the interview room, he screamed, cried, and pushed furniture around. It was like he was having a temper tantrum. He told the police that he had moved out of the family house months ago and that he loved his girlfriend Janet. That night, he visited Maria to talk about their marriage. The couple had sex, and he went to take a shower. When he exited the shower, he came to believe that Maria had taken some clonazepam. This is a benzodiazepine often prescribed to treat anxiety. Joel admitted the medical supplies found in the house belonged to him because he had been taking steroids. At this point in the investigation, the police believed that Maria had died from a drug overdose. The problem is they didn't know what drugs were involved or how the drugs were administered. Maria could have been responsible for her own death. 4 months later, a toxicology report would answer a lot of questions in this case. As it turns out, Maria did die from an overdose, but there was no clonazepam in her system, as her husband had suggested. Rather, there were 7 other drugs: Demerol, morphine, ketamine, lidocaine, Versed, propofol, and Narcan. It appeared as though the propofol is the drug that caused Maria's death. In theory, Maria could have obtained all the drugs by herself, but several of these drugs are primarily used in hospitals. Joel worked in a hospital and had access to all the drugs. In January 2021, Joel was arrested and charged with murder. He made bail, only to be rearrested and charged with tampering with physical evidence with the intent to impair. Once again, Joel made bail. His trial started on March 20, 2023. 10 days later, on March 30, he was found guilty on both charges. Joel was sentenced to life in prison. He will first be eligible for parole on March 14, 2053, when he will be 74 years old. Now moving to my analysis. Joel Pellot maintains his innocence, and he has a few supporters. They argued that he did inject his wife with drugs, but not to kill her, rather to calm her down. The state, of course, disagrees about Joel's innocence. They argued that Joel had emotionally mistreated his wife and had a motive to kill her in the form of greed. He did not want to divide his assets in a divorce. This brings me to the question, was Joel guilty of murder? Let's take a look at the evidence both for and against the idea that he was guilty, starting with the inculpatory factors. Not long before Maria's death, she gave Joel an ultimatum, telling him that he needed to choose her or his lover Janet, but he could not have them both. When the police called Maria, her husband could be heard in the background using expletives. Furthermore, he allegedly broke the windshield of the vehicle. Maria made it clear to Joel that she was hiring a lawyer. This is a major step. She had finally had enough. Joel knew that a divorce was coming. He told Maria that he wanted to avoid lawyers to save money. Not long after this, his tone changed, and he appeared to be open to reconciling. So all of a sudden, after 2 years of infidelity, Joel was open to dumping his girlfriend and reconnecting with Maria. This is very difficult to believe. It seems more likely that he was telling Maria what she wanted to hear so he could get close to her without her being suspicious. After Joel visited the family house, Maria died of an overdose. There were drugs in her system that Joel had access to, but he denied injecting her with anything. Joel claimed that he took a shower right before the police arrived, but the shower was completely dry. It appeared as though he was lying. His lover Janet was granted immunity and testified for the state. She claimed that Joel regularly brought drugs back from the hospital, including propofol. She further claimed that he told her that he injected Maria on the night she died, but it was just to calm her down. Again, to the police, Joel denied injecting Maria. Despite this denial, his defense conceded that Joel did in fact inject Maria. This was part of a defense strategy, but it removed the possibility that Maria injected herself. Joel injected Maria with 7 different drugs. If he was really trying to calm her down, why not use just one drug? Moving to the exculpatory factors, Maria had Narcan in her system, which was administered by Joel. This drug is used to treat opioid overdoses. The defense argued this demonstrated that Joel was trying to help Maria. It's worth noting that propofol is not an opioid. That's pretty much it for the exculpatory factors. When considering the evidence in this case, do I think that Joel Pellot was guilty of murder? Yes, he was guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. The admission that he injected Maria removed just about all the doubt. What do I think happened in this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. When Joel started his relationship with Maria, he planned on remaining faithful. Sometime in 2018, his priorities changed. It appears as though Joel became aware of his own ability to attract other love interests. Part of this may have been due to his increased earnings. He was making quite a bit of money by this point. People said that he became flirtatious and started building muscle. Joel was self-centered, manipulative, deceptive, impulsive, irresponsible, sensation-seeking, cold, callous, aggressive, hedonistic, had a sense of entitlement, and was exceedingly creepy. He started his affair with Janet, but did not leave his wife Maria due to the financial impact. Maria did not want to give up on the relationship because she was afraid it would hurt their children, and because she loved her husband. Both Joel and Maria stayed in the marriage, even though it was toxic. In her journal, Maria recognized her husband's destructive nature when she wrote, quote, "Life is so unfair. My husband, the man I love so much, is causing me so much pain," unquote. Joel planned on maintaining both relationships as long as he could. For him, this was a big party. He could have what he desired without sacrificing anything. There was zero concern about Maria's well-being. If this negatively affected her, so be it. That was Joel's perspective. He did not care. Maria maintained an unrealistic hope that Joel would transform into a different person. In her journal, she wrote that all she wanted was to see change in her husband. At some level, Maria was aware that she may not be thinking rationally. She wrote, quote, "My heart says one thing, my mind says something else. I am in this constant battle, tug of war. I want it to stop, but they won't. They keep me sad, and those are my tears," unquote. Joel's effort to manipulate Maria made her disoriented. She indicated that her future was foggy and unclear. She was haunted by her past and confused by her present. She did not want sadness, heartache, or for her mind to be tortured. Instead, Maria wanted laughter, peace, and happiness. Eventually, she realized that she was unwilling to tolerate her husband's behavior. She issued him an ultimatum after seeing his vehicle at Janet's residence. This observation solidified Maria's resolve. Now she was angry. This was a defining moment. Maria had finally stood up for herself. Unfortunately, it was also a defining moment for Joel. Just like Maria had enough, he did too. Joel had felt powerful for a long time. Things had been going his way. He came to believe he could get anything he wanted. He deceived Maria by acting like he was open to change. This was an effective manipulation tactic because this is what Maria was hoping for. She was desperate for Joel to change. He knew exactly what to say to effectively deceive his wife. Joel requested a heart-to-heart, but what he really wanted was a heart to stop. After visiting the family house, Joel injected Maria with a lethal combination of drugs. He may have laced a drink first in order to render her unconscious, or he may have simply manipulated her into not resisting the injection. Perhaps he told her that he was giving her something to help her relax. Joel included Narcan in the mix in case the police figured out that he injected her. This way he could argue that he tried to help her. Maria didn't stand a chance against her husband. She died believing he had changed. The only transformation Joel made was in a homicidal direction. Now moving to my final thoughts. Not long before Maria's death, she made a secret video recording with her cell phone. She and her husband were in a motor vehicle arguing about the marriage. Maria asked Joel, "What is it that you want me to do?" This approach is consistent with Joel having complete control of this relationship. He was cheating, yet Maria was coming to him wanting to know what she could do to preserve the marriage. Almost like this was her fault. She was the one who needed to change. In this moment, it was perfectly clear Joel was a cruel individual with no empathy. He would have taken everything from Maria, which is exactly what he would do not long after this. When affairs are discovered in a marriage, some people believe the offended party will always react by being angry and by having a desire to reject the offending party. They will always want to be done with the marriage due to the deep level of betrayal. In reality, the offended party is often the one who pursues the cheater. Maria's behavior is pretty common. What's unusual about it is how long she was willing to put up with the bad behavior. It's one thing to have this type of reaction a few weeks or even a few months after the discovery of an affair, but this affair had been going on for 2 years. Maria was trapped by her own belief in her husband's potential. Ironically, Joel was trapped in a similar way. He also had a massive amount of confidence in his potential. He believed he could get away with murder. Those are my thoughts in the case of Joel Pellot. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.